And welcome to our review of Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Depending on how you make your character, the story starts off with Gran or Jita. One day, they befriend a woman with blue hair named Lyria, as well as an adolescent baby dragon named Virn. Gran and Jita met one day when light descended from a ship. Scared of what it could be, Jita rushed into the woods to investigate and finds the blue-haired girl being hounded by the Empire in battles to protect her. She ultimately perishes, suffering fatal injuries. However, Lyria connects her life force with Jita's own, hence the name Fantasy Relink. After selecting your difficulty from Story, Normal, or Hard mode, you begin the game. The damage in Grand Blue is based off of 7 different element types, which you can use to your advantage. You'll find everything in Grand Blue explained very thoroughly and extremely easy to digest for information. You can expect to hardly ever get lost or very little endless wandering inside of the game. You'll find yourself spending your hard-earned mastery points in the Mastery Skill Tree, which is an innovative system similar to the Sphere Grid in Final Fantasy X. The progression system done this way is extremely rewarding, and you'll find yourself spending every point you get. You'll be using a system called crewmate cards to acquire a new crewmate and add them to your party whenever you see fit. There are 20 playable characters inside of the Grand Blue. There should be more in the future after they add them through patches. Each character has its own unique perspective and capabilities in combat, and some even fit the classic character roles like tank and healer. One unique thing to do is to actually do quests for each person's character storylines. You'll start the game with several characters that the game gives you for free, but ultimately your party will be able to have up to 4 people in it, and any of them can be from any of the crewmate cards, and you can do this anytime you're in town. Your mastery points, however, will be limited, and you can only acquire them through quests, chests, and character level ups. There's tons of options as far as characters and builds and different combination of characters and builds to choose from throughout the game. If you ever get confused, lost, or disorientated throughout the entire game, you can just access the field notes inside of Lyria's journal. Grand Blue offers a lot of unique experiences in and outside of combat. Like here you can see collecting a shrouded chest, where you have to run a speed run to get gems in order to open it. The world is pretty vast, and you are rewarded for exploring all the nooks and crannies inside of the map. There's different styles of loot in the game, and some of them even require keys and special quests to access. Inside of combat, there's a new concept called Link Level, and whenever it's fully charged, all of your characters can perform special link attacks with each other. The link attacks vary wildly based off of characters and how they interact with each other, and are quite unique inside of combat. You'll find an immersive experience when you're not having any downside inside of combat, and you're never waiting for that next attack. After you've been in combat long enough and performed enough attacks, you can acquire something called Skybound Arts Gauge. Whenever you have more Skybound Arts active with more characters, you get more bonuses. With all the different capabilities inside of combat and the different types of attacks and things you can chain off of each other, it would be very difficult for someone to not be engaged by combat the entire time inside of Grand Blue. There's a plethora of options inside of combat, and there's different ways to attack, guard, dodge, and level up your character. You should find yourself leaving very little want inside of the combat of Grand Blue. One of the best aspects of Grand Blue is how many characters and options there are to choose from. Whenever you're playing a character, if you get bored of them, you can simply just switch to another character and master that one instead. It doesn't take a long time to master the characters and the best things they have to offer inside of the system. Every fight is going to be very different and offers different tactical advantages to different monsters, different scenarios, and different elements. It's somewhat difficult to get used to the combat because it's so different all the time. All the monsters have different AoEs and different attacks and different time to kill ratios. There is also a critical meter, and this is how you die. You get a gauge called a critical meter. Whenever the gauge is fully emptied after reviving yourself so many times, you will just lose. When you go down, you do have the opportunity to revive yourself or your teammates. But the more you do this, the more you deplete your critical gauge. The main protagonist has a dodge mechanic and a guard mechanic depending on your playstyle. The dodge mechanic will give you invincibility frames a little bit after, whenever you perform a perfect dodge, similar to Dark Souls and Monster Hunter. The game will take about 10 to 20 hours to beat entirely, from start to finish. However, there is in-game content that will require some more grinding to be able to perform and do, similar to raids inside of MMO, and it does pull a lot of inspiration from a lot of top games that you've probably heard of. Whenever you pick up the game and begin playing it, you'll immediately start feeling a sense of nostalgia from playing a lot of your favorite video games. The story, I would also say, is very impeccable and very good. A little standard as far as JRPGs go, however, it is very unique and you will not see a lot of the events happening inside of the storyline. The game is multiplayer, but you'll have to progress through the storyline a little bit to get to the point where you can play with your friends. At the end game, there is a lot of options such as Horde, Boss, and different modes like this, so you can challenge your builds and never get tired of the game. I would also say the organization structure of the game makes sure that you're not missing anything and that you can keep track of all your skills, masteries, side quests, and bounties that you'll pick up on your journey. I will say that this game probably isn't for everyone, just simply because not everyone likes the JRPG style. If you like the video, or you want to see more stuff of Granblue, let me know down below what kind of tutorials, tips, and tricks and guides I can put together as far as content is concerned. This game can go pretty far in terms of what you can do.